At his peak, Lawrence Taylor was more than a football player. He was a phenomenon, a man who single-handedly changed the game, earning a place among the greatest to ever play. But success on the field masked chaos off of it. The same intensity that made him unstoppable in uniform fueled a darker path in private. Over time, headlines shifted from touchdowns to troubles, from triumphs to tragedies. And today, the life he leads couldn't be further from the glory days that once defined him. But before we get into it, let's take it back to where it all started. Lawrence Lonnie Taylor was born on February 4th, 1959, in Williamsburg, Virginia, one of 3 sons raised by Iris and Clarence Taylor. From the very beginning, his personality hinted at the kind of larger-than-life figure he would become. His mother, Iris, often said he was a challenging child. While his brothers usually asked permission before doing something, Lonnie was the type to act first and then spin a story to explain it later. Football wasn't even part of his life until high school. Before that, Taylor played baseball as a catcher. His introduction to football happened by chance when Lafayette High School's coach Mel Jones noticed him walking down the hallway. Jones recalled that his first thought was simply, he was big. That random hallway encounter pushed Taylor onto the football field as a junior, and it changed the course of his life. In high school, he showed promise but was still raw, and that limited his options when it came to college. Still, he earned just enough attention to secure a spot at the University of North Carolina. Adjusting to football at the college level wasn't easy. His first 2 years in Chapel Hill were rocky, and he spent them playing defensive line. But even in those early struggles, coaches noticed something different about him. Assistant coach Bobby Cale remembered a freshman version of Taylor who would leap high into the air to block punts, crash to the ground on his neck, and pop back up as if nothing had happened. Reckless didn't even begin to cover it. That wild energy eventually led to a position change. In 1979, Taylor was moved to linebacker, and the transformation was immediate. By his senior year, he wasn't just making plays, he was taking over games. In 1980, he broke the school record with 16 sacks, grabbed ACC Player of the Year, earned first-team All-American honors, and later got recognized as one of the 50 greatest ACC players ever. Across his 4 years, he racked up 21 sacks, 33 tackles for loss, and even snagged a couple of interceptions. He anchored North Carolina's 1980 ACC championship team, the last one the Tar Heels have won, and helped deliver Statement Bowl wins over Michigan and Texas. Coaches from opposing teams could already see his NFL future. Georgia Tech coach Bill Curry summed it up best when he said, "He destroyed our offense." By the time the 1981 NFL draft rolled around, Taylor's reputation was so strong that a poll of the league's 28 general managers showed 26 of them would take him first overall if they had the chance. Ironically, the team that actually held the top pick, the New Orleans Saints, wasn't one of them. They chose Heisman Trophy winner George Rogers, leaving the New York Giants sitting at number 2 with a golden opportunity. Giants general manager George Young had no doubts. He called Taylor the best college linebacker he had ever seen, even comparing him favorably to the legendary Dick Butkus. Head coach Ray Perkins described him as the cleanest player in the draft. No baggage, no injuries, just sky-high potential. But behind the scenes, Taylor wasn't exactly living up to that image. Unlike today's draft spectacles, there were no glitzy green rooms in 1981. Players stayed home and waited for a phone call. On draft day, Taylor was back in Virginia, passing the time in his own way. Later, he admitted he spent the day knocking back 41 cans of Coors Light. By the time the phone finally rang, he could barely remember what happened. Somehow, despite that wild introduction, he was officially a Giant. From the very first day of training camp, the New York Giants realized why Lawrence Taylor had been such a coveted draft pick. Even in practice, he played with a level of intensity that stunned his teammates. His speed, strength, and raw energy had them calling him Superman, joking that his locker should be turned into a phone booth. Giants quarterback Phil Simms felt relief when the regular season began, knowing Taylor could finally unleash his fury on opposing quarterbacks instead of him. Taylor's rookie year lived up to the hype. His defensive coordinator, Bill Parcells, quickly discovered that coaching him would be as much about managing his instincts as developing his skills. In one game against the St. Louis Cardinals, Taylor ignored his assignment to drop into coverage, blitzed instead, and sacked the quarterback. When Parcells told him it was the wrong play, Taylor shot back that they might as well add it to the playbook. This back and forth defined their relationship. Parcells was notoriously hard on his players, and Taylor didn't always take it well. At one point early on, he even told Parcells he had had enough and demanded to be cut or traded. But over time, a mutual respect formed. Taylor came to appreciate Parcells' toughness, while Parcells privately admitted that he admired Taylor's mean streak. On the field, Taylor was sensational. As a rookie in 1981, he racked up 9.5 sacks, won both Defensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year, and helped the Giants finish 9-7, earning their first playoff appearance in nearly 2 decades. In that postseason game against the San Francisco 49ers, head coach Bill Walsh went as far as assigning his best offensive lineman, John Ayers, to shadow Taylor all game. Even with extra attention, Taylor still recorded a sack and 3 tackles, proving he was already one of the most feared defenders in the league. Now, the 1982 season was shortened by a player's strike, limiting the schedule to just 9 games. The Giants stumbled to a losing record, but Taylor still provided unforgettable moments. On Thanksgiving Day, against the Detroit Lions, he intercepted a pass and raced 97 yards for a touchdown, showcasing the rare athleticism that made him unlike any linebacker the NFL had ever seen. Even with his team struggling, Taylor was named Defensive Player of the Year for the 2nd straight season. But change came quickly after that. Head coach Ray Perkins left for Alabama, and Bill Parcells was promoted to lead the team in 1983. The season turned disastrous, with the Giants finishing 3-12. The move to shift Taylor to middle linebacker after an injury to Harry Carson limited his opportunities to attack the quarterback, though he still performed at an elite level, becoming the first player ever to be named first-team All-Pro at 2 different positions in the same season. But Taylor grew frustrated with the constant losing. He showed up late to meetings, skipped conditioning drills, and made it clear his patience was running out. That offseason, a bidding war for Taylor's services erupted. The Giants faced competition from the New Jersey Generals of the upstart USFL, a team owned by businessman Donald Trump. Trump tried to lure Taylor by offering a $1 million 25-year interest-free loan, with the condition that Taylor would join the Generals in 1988. Taylor accepted but quickly regretted the deal. With the help of his agent and the Giants front office, he managed to escape the contract, but only by agreeing to pay Trump back through a complicated arrangement. The Giants gave Taylor a 6-year, $6.55 million contract that included a $1 million loan he was required to hand directly to Trump. On top of that, the Giants paid Trump $750,000 over 5 years to settle the situation. With that drama in the rearview, Taylor and the Giants came roaring back in 1984. They finished 9-7, knocked off the Rams in the playoffs, and only fell short in the divisional round against the 49ers. For Taylor, this was the start of his most dominant run. He racked up 11.5 sacks that year, including 4 in a single game early on, and earned another first-team All-Pro nod. It also kicked off a streak of 7 straight seasons with double-digit sacks. In 1985, the New York Giants closed out the season with a 10-6 record and finally broke through in the playoffs against the San Francisco 49ers. They handled the Niners with a convincing 17-3 win in the first round, but their momentum came to a halt the following week. The Chicago Bears, who were in the middle of one of the most dominant seasons in NFL history, shut them out 21-0 on their way to a championship. Even with the loss, Lawrence Taylor continued to shine. He piled up 13 sacks, earned another All-Pro selection, and further cemented his reputation as the man who thrived when the lights were brightest. Taylor loved those make-or-break moments, the kind of situations where others hesitated, but he stepped up without fear. That season also brought one of the most infamous nights in NFL history. On November 18, 1985, with the country watching Monday Night Football, the Giants faced their division rivals, Washington. Bill Parcells had a trick he loved to use on Taylor, convincing him the Redskins didn't believe he could dominate them. No matter how many times Parcells played this card, Taylor bought into it and played with a chip on his shoulder. Midway through the second quarter, with the score tied, Washington ran a flea flicker. Taylor and Harry Carson sniffed it out instantly and chased down quarterback Joe Theismann. They hit him at the same time, and Taylor's body weight came down awkwardly on Theismann's right leg. The collision shattered both the tibia and fibula in a gruesome injury that ended Theismann's career on the spot. Taylor's reaction said everything. The instant he heard the snap, he leapt up, urgently waving for Washington's trainers to get on the field. To this day, he can't bring himself to watch the replay and refuses to relive the moment. Theismann, though, never blamed him. He's always said the same thing. Taylor was just doing his job, and that's the cruel reality of the game. But out of that dark moment came a new chapter. After 2 straight years of heartbreak in '84 and '85, the Giants finally broke through in 1986. They stormed to a 14-2 record and demolished the 49ers and Redskins in the playoffs by a combined 66-3. At the center of it all was Taylor, who terrorized offenses with 20.5 sacks. His dominance earned him the league's MVP award, the only time in NFL history a defensive player has been unanimously voted to the honor. He also picked up his 3rd Defensive Player of the Year award. In Super Bowl 21, the Giants started slow against John Elway and the Denver Broncos, but stormed back to win 39-20. Taylor delivered a crucial stop, dragging Elway down just short of the goal line to kill a scoring opportunity. But even in victory, he felt empty. Years later, he admitted that when the confetti fell, he was deflated. After climbing every mountain, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl champion, he felt like there was nothing left to chase. The following year brought a new challenge, the 1987 Players' Strike. The season was cut to 15 games, and the defending champions stumbled to a 6-9 finish. Taylor created waves when he crossed the picket line, explaining that he was losing too much money while the team was losing games. Still, he managed to lead the Giants in sacks, recording 12 in just 12 appearances. In 1988, the league finally caught up with his off-field struggles. After failing a drug test, he was suspended for 30 days. It was his 2nd violation, though the first had been kept quiet the year before. He entered rehab again, but was back on the field after a month, determined to make an impact. And he did. Despite tearing shoulder ligaments and detaching a pectoral muscle, he strapped on a harness and kept playing. In one unforgettable performance, he racked up 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles while visibly grimacing in pain on the sideline. His toughness carried the Giants to a narrow 1-point victory, though they ultimately missed the playoffs. In 1989, Taylor bounced back with another dominant season, collecting 15 sacks. But late in the year, he broke his tibia and was sidelined as the Giants finished 12-4. Their playoff hopes ended in overtime against the Rams. What stood out most about Taylor through these years wasn't just his talent, but his sheer will. Injuries that would sideline other players became challenges for him to overcome. He once explained that the secret was convincing his body it wasn't hurt, and more often than not, he made that trick work. Now, before the 1990 season even began, Lawrence Taylor was making headlines. He held out of training camp, pushing for a bigger contract that would reflect his dominance on the field. Eventually, he signed a 3-year deal worth $5 million, making him the highest-paid defensive player in the NFL at the time. Taylor proved he was worth every penny. He racked up 10.5 sacks and earned his 10th straight Pro Bowl nod. The Giants as a team were on fire that year. They stormed out to a 10-0 start and finished 13-3, setting themselves up as one of the league's top contenders. In the playoffs, they crushed the Chicago Bears 31-3 in the opening round. Then came the clash with the San Francisco 49ers, the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions chasing an unprecedented three-peat. The Niners had gone 14-2 and looked just as tough as New York. The game turned into a defensive war, with points hard to come by. San Francisco clung to a 13-12 lead late in the game, and then everything flipped. Giants defensive tackle Leonard Marshall blindsided Joe Montana with a crushing hit, knocking the legendary quarterback out of the game. Minutes later, running back Roger Craig fumbled and Lawrence Taylor came up with the ball. That turnover gave the Giants one last chance. They marched downfield and kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. That set the stage for Super Bowl 25, where the Giants were heavy underdogs against the high-powered Buffalo Bills. Buffalo had the flash and firepower, but Bill Parcells and defensive coordinator Bill Belichick crafted a masterful game plan to slow them down. The result was a back-and-forth battle that went down to the very last play. With the Giants clinging to a 20-19 lead, Buffalo lined up for a potential game-winning 47-yard field goal. Taylor later admitted he couldn't bring himself to watch. The ball sailed wide right, and just like that, the Giants were champions again, claiming their second Super Bowl in 5 years. But the celebration didn't last long. After the victory, Bill Parcells shocked the football world by retiring. Without their legendary coach, the Giants slipped to an 8-8 record in 1991. For Taylor, it was his toughest season yet. He battled injuries, missed 2 games, and for the first time in his career, failed to make the Pro Bowl. The following year was even worse. Taylor started strong with 5 sacks in 9 games, but a ruptured Achilles tendon ended his season in Week 10 against Green Bay. The Giants collapsed without him, finishing 6-10. Until that point, Taylor had only missed 4 games in his entire career. Now, sidelined for 7 straight, he was forced to confront the reality of his football mortality. By 1993, Taylor had 2 reasons to return. First, he didn't want his career to end in an injury. Second, the Giants brought in veteran coach Dan Reeves, best known for guiding John Elway and the Denver Broncos to 3 Super Bowls in the 1980s. With Reeves in charge, Taylor and quarterback Phil Simms both returned healthy, and the Giants rebounded to an 11-5 record. The defense, led by Taylor and rookie Michael Strawn, was relentless, shutting down opponents and giving up the fewest points in the league. They took out the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, but when they met the 49ers again, it was a completely different story. San Francisco steamrolled them 44-3, a brutal ending to the season. After the loss, Taylor stepped up to the podium and made it official. His legendary 13-year career had come to an end. After Taylor retired, he wasn't about to slip quietly into the background. He gave TV a shot, working briefly as an analyst on TNT's short-lived Sunday Night Football, and even tried his hand at acting. In 1999, he landed the role of Luther "Shark" LeVay, a hard-living, aging linebacker in Any Given Sunday, a character so close to the real LT that some joked he was just playing himself. But no matter what he did, his off-field reputation always seemed to tag along. When asked once what he could do that no other linebacker could, his answer summed it up in one word: drink. He admitted he lived life in the fast lane, and he wasn't exaggerating. Drugs and alcohol almost cost him his career and his life. Stories of his reckless nights were legendary, like the time in 1989 when he strolled into a team meeting wearing handcuffs. His explanation: a night out with women experimenting with new equipment that, unfortunately, didn't come with a key. Taylor later revealed that he first tried cocaine at a party during his rookie season in 1981. Within a couple of years, he had moved on to crack cocaine, at times consuming an ounce a day. He admitted that even in the middle of games, he was thinking less about defensive schemes and more about getting high afterward. Despite this, he insisted his addiction didn't affect his performance on the field. His personal life told another story. His first wife once had to pick him up from a crack house. The NFL noticed his substance issues and placed him on frequent drug testing, but Taylor found a way around it by using someone else's urine. By 1987, the league caught on, suspending him after multiple failed tests. Knowing one more slip would end his career, he stopped using, at least until retirement. He even confessed that as his final season approached, he was already planning to dive back into drugs once the testing stopped. That's exactly what happened. The day after his last NFL game in 1994, he was back to smoking crack. Even on the day the Giants retired his number, he couldn't resist. For 2 years, Taylor chased cocaine with the same ferocity he once chased quarterbacks. His marriage fell apart, and he was arrested for buying crack in South Carolina. Friends described finding him curled up on a couch, clutching a pillow, broken by the weight of his addiction. The impact on his children weighed heavily on him. He later admitted that what he put them through was the worst part of his struggles. Determined to win back their respect, he stayed sober for a little over a year, but the boredom ate away at him. Soon, he relapsed, going on a year-long binge that left his home resembling a crack den. He spent up to $1,000 a day on cocaine and escorts, living in darkness behind windows covered with white sheets. His agent, Mark Lepselter, called it a suburban crack house, filthy, falling apart, and almost unlivable. By 1998, Taylor's spiral forced a breaking point. He was arrested twice, once in Florida and again in New Jersey, and this time the threat of real prison time made him take rehab seriously. After 2 months in treatment, he emerged sober in 1999, determined to turn things around. That same year, the Pro Football Hall of Fame came calling. No matter how wild things got off the field, his dominance on it couldn't be denied. He was a first-ballot inductee. But by 2009, Taylor's troubles were far from over. That year, he was arrested in Florida after leaving the scene of an accident and got out on just a $500 bond. Then, only a year later, things got even darker. In 2010, he was arrested again in New York, this time facing serious charges. According to investigators, the girl had run away from her Bronx home and was brought to Ramapo by a pimp. Afterward, she contacted her uncle, who notified the police. Authorities arrested the pimp, and Taylor was taken into custody around 4 a.m. at a Holiday Inn. Detectives said the girl had facial injuries before arriving at the hotel, and while a bottle of alcohol was found in Taylor's room, no drugs were present. Police confirmed Taylor cooperated fully during the arrest. The charges were severe. He faced third-degree rape for allegedly having sex with a minor, as well as third-degree patronization for allegedly paying her $300. The felony rape charge carried the possibility of 4 years in prison, while the misdemeanor patronization charge could add another year. Police Chief Peter Brower made it clear ignorance of her age was not an excuse. Taylor's attorney, Arthur A. Dalla, quickly went on the defensive. He insisted his client had not committed the crime and denied that any sexual activity took place. At Taylor's first court appearance, bail was set at $75,000, which he posted before leaving the courthouse. Outside, when asked for comment, Taylor brushed off the media frenzy by saying he wasn't that important. The case moved forward, and in 2011, Taylor ultimately pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges: sexual misconduct and patronizing a prostitute. Instead of prison, he was sentenced to 6 years of probation and required to register as a sex offender. In court, Taylor admitted he had sex with a prostitute who turned out to be a 16-year-old runaway, but insisted she had told him she was 19. Even after sentencing, Taylor showed little remorse. In a Fox News interview, he claimed he wasn't responsible for prostitution and described it as the world's oldest profession. He argued that he hadn't gone looking for a child, saying the girl was a sex worker who came to his hotel room. To him, getting caught was more embarrassing than criminal. The story didn't end in the courtroom. The young woman, known as Fierro, filed a civil lawsuit accusing Taylor of battery and gender-motivated violence. She claimed she never consented to sex with him and described the encounter in disturbing detail. Her attorney said Taylor had taken advantage of a terrified girl, while Idala countered that Fierro was not as innocent as she claimed, pointing to her background. Eventually, a jury sided with Taylor, but the trial once again brought his choices into the spotlight. Outside the courthouse, Taylor admitted the ordeal had cost him dearly. Speaking engagements and endorsement deals had dried up, and he said he wanted to focus on repairing his own life. For the first time, he expressed sympathy for Fierro, saying he hoped she could move forward with her life too. But controversy followed him. In 2016, his wife, Lynette, was arrested for domestic violence after throwing an object at him during an argument, leaving a cut on his head. Police said she resisted arrest, cursed at officers, and even admitted to hitting him, though she later denied it publicly. Despite the incident, Taylor refused to press charges. The following year, Taylor's own actions landed him back in legal trouble. In Florida, he crashed his car into a police vehicle and was charged with DUI. His blood alcohol level tested just above the legal limit. He pleaded guilty, receiving 12 months of probation, a suspended license, mandatory DUI school, community service, and thousands in fines. In 2021, he was arrested once again in South Florida, this time for failing to report a change of address as a registered sex offender. He turned himself in and quickly posted bail. His attorney argued that Taylor hadn't knowingly broken the law, explaining that during his divorce, local police even suggested he sleep at a hotel for safety reasons. The defense claimed Taylor was still living at his registered address and expected the case to be dismissed. Yet the issue returned in 2024 when he faced the same charge again, failing to update his address on the registry. His lawyer insisted it was a misunderstanding, but the arrest highlighted a troubling pattern. Now in his early 60s, the Hall of Fame linebacker, once celebrated for his dominance on the field, was making headlines more for legal troubles than his legendary career. It was another chapter in the complicated and often tragic story of Lawrence Taylor.